Okay, it's Thursday, September 24th, Comp 1. Welcome, everybody. Hope you're having a good morning. We're going to talk some punctuation stuff today to start off the morning. And then we will do a little brainstorm for comparative rhetorical analysis, and then work on reflection essay 3. So let's get into it. If you haven't already, get some note-taking materials together while I get the PowerPoint pulled up. Oh, by the way, quick announcement. I should be getting I should be getting an update tomorrow at the latest about how class will proceed next week, whether or not we will continue using Zoom or if we will be going back to a live setting like we began the semester on. So as soon as I get that information, I'm going to be posting it as a course announcement and also emailing that same message to each of you. So check your emails for sure Friday evening or sometime over the weekend so that you know what to prepare for as far as class next week. Again, whether or not we will be continuing on Zoom or going back to the live setting. So let's talk punctuation and sentence structure. This is something that I noticed we were a bit of a mixed bag on when it came to our abilities with the first couple of writing assignments. So I think it would be wise of us to just take a moment to pause and reflect on a few of these rules. This should be nothing new. These are basic punctuation and sentence structure rules. So we can all use a refresher from time to time. If you are not doing it already, be sure that with all of the reflection essays and the major writing assignments that you are looking at my feedback. Really, you should be looking at my feedback on all assignments, but on those specific assignments, you're going to get a lot of feedback from me, and it's going to be very detailed about your writing. So make sure that you're checking that feedback. Again, you'll need to go through the student grades section in Blackboard, find the assignment, which should be hyperlinked in blue once I'm finished grading it. Click on that. From there, your essay should populate the next page. You will notice a bunch of little yellow speech bubbles all throughout your essay. By clicking on those, you'll be able to see the feedback I've left for you in specific areas of your work. Okay, so check it. Again, students who check that regularly make drastic improvements throughout the semester. Those who don't see the opposite effect. So be in the first. All right, let's get to it. Main points we're going to touch on today. Now we're going to be kind of jumping around a bit. Okay, we don't necessarily need all of this, but we will more than likely we're going to define independent and dependent clauses so that we can be able to identify this as we write. We're going to talk conjunctions a little bit. The main thing that we're going to hammer in is the comma splice, which is a punctuation error. It's one that we see done pretty regularly, and it appears to be correct. And in certain ways that sentences are written, it could be correct. This is something that a lot of creative writers get away with doing because they can break certain rules and so forth with creative writing. However, with academic writing, we have to stick to strict English rules. So let's get into more. The independent clause essentially is just one sentence. It has a subject, verb, and a complete thought. So it expresses an idea about a subject, and the subject is doing something in that sentence. So here, Janet always arrives 10 minutes late to work. Simple, direct sentence. Again, the independent clause is a full idea. It's a full sentence on its own. However, it can be a part of a bigger idea forming a bigger sentence, not just a simple sentence. We'll look at that here in just a second. So the takeaway here, independent clause equals subject, verb, and a complete thought. The dependent clause is a sentence fragment. Now it contains a subject and a verb, but it does not contain a complete thought because Janet sleeps past her alarm. we are left wondering why. Okay, now it sounds like a response that we would throw around in speech, right? Something that we would say. Absolutely, we speak in dependent clauses all of the time, and this is something that students sometimes struggle with. Again, I think we've addressed this idea earlier in the semester that the way we speak and the way we write are kind of two different animals. We can break a lot of rules as we speak, sorry. We can say words like y'all. We can speak in fragments like using dependent clauses, right? If someone asks the question, why did Janet get fired? We could respond through speech by saying, because she always sleeps past her alarm, and we understand it. However, on the page, strict English rules come into play. This would be a sentence fragment, okay? We would need, Janet got fired because she always sleeps past her alarm in order for that to be correct on the page. So the takeaway here, the dependent clause is a subject and a verb without a complete thought, is a sentence fragment, okay? Okay, coordinating conjunctions. We've heard of fanboy before, I'm sure. For, and, nor, but, or, and yet, okay? These are words that are intended to join together clauses in a sentence, typically two independent clauses within a single sentence. Oh, sorry. There we go. And again, the purpose of the coordinating conjunction is to join clauses together in a single sentence, or at times to add to something, or to provide context for something, or to show the antithesis of something. Okay, we're going to skip this. We'll get to essentially a similar idea here in just a minute. Okay, subordinating conjunctions, also known as the dependent marker. Words used to join together independent clauses to create complex sentences, independent and dependent clauses. Now, it gets the name dependent marker because if we use one of these words in a sentence, it often makes the clause dependent. Okay, for instance, if we were to go back for just a moment to our dependent clause slide here, if we were to remove the word because and just say Janet sleeps past her alarm, now we have an independent clause. Okay, so that's sort of how it gets its name, the dependent marker, and also subordinating conjunctions. It makes it a dependent clause. So again, here are those conjunctions. There are a lot of them. Scribble, scribble, scribble. Tyson, good morning. Would you mind starting your video for us, please? And once you do that, get some note-taking materials together as well, Tyson. Again, please start your video. Okay, moving along. We will skip for now. Skip for now. Okay, sentence variation. So the 4 types of sentences that we will be working with in this course, and probably the 4 types of sentences you will most likely write using the English language. So we have number 1, the simple sentence, which is just one independent clause. And this can be written a number of different ways. We can keep it simple and direct by having a single subject and a single verb. In the first example, Arlo loves firecrackers. We could have compound direct objects, okay? Multiple nouns that are not the subject in the sentence. So firecrackers and ice cream in the next one. We could have multiple verbs, compound verbs. The subject can be doing more than one thing, loves and cherishes. It can have multiple subjects. The sentence can be about more than one subject. Penny and a friend, Arlo and Penny here in this sentence. Or it could have a combination of all of these things, multiple subjects, verbs, and direct objects, okay? But the underlying thing here is that it is one independent clause that constitutes the simple sentence. The compound sentence contains two independent clauses, and it's brought together one of three ways. In the first example, we have a coordinating conjunction and a comma. Okay, now this is one of the errors that I noticed in our work with the past couple of assignments. Some of us were doing one of two things. We were either including two independent clauses and a coordinating conjunction with no comma, or we were writing a sentence that had two independent clauses joined together with only a comma, no coordinating conjunction. Make sure that you have both here. Another way to do it is to use a conjunctive adverb. Words like however, therefore, moreover. If we were to use one of these words, we would need a semicolon before and a comma after the conjunctive adverb to join the independent clauses together. Now, for the third example here, we use simply a semicolon to join together the independent clauses. Now, this one has a catch to it. Both of the independent clauses really have to be kind of working together to establish the idea or to articulate the idea. Okay, so it's a little bit more of a catch there. Again, Tyson, please turn on your video screen. Okay, so the compound sentence, again, the takeaway here, two independent clauses in a single sentence. We can bring these two independent clauses together one of three ways, with a comma and a coordinating conjunction, fanboy stuff, with a semicolon and a conjunctive adverb and a comma, or a semicolon. Okay, the third sentence type is the complex sentence. The complex sentence contains a dependent clause and an independent clause. So in the first example, we have Arlo prefers sherbet. Penny convinces him to try, although Arlo prefers sherbet, Penny convinces him to try Rocky Road. Now in the first clause, we have a dependent clause. We know this because if we were to stop the sentence there, it would be a fragment. We also have the dependent marker, although, the subordinating conjunction, although. Now, whenever the dependent clause begins the complex sentence, you must put a comma when the dependent clause ends before the independent clause begins. This is another error that I saw pretty commonly in your work with the first couple of assignments. We were not putting that comma in between the dependent clause and the independent clause. The other example is the inverse of this, with the independent clause beginning the sentence. Now, when we write it this way, no punctuation is needed. It simply flows independent clause into dependent clause. No punctuation there. So the takeaway, the complex sentence contains a dependent clause and an independent clause. When the dependent clause, the sentence fragment, when it begins the sentence, we must put a comma when that clause ends before the independent clause begins. If it is the inverse of that, the independent clause begins the sentence, no punctuation is needed. It simply flows independent into dependent until the sentence is finished. Okay, our fourth sentence type is the compound complex, where we take the previous two sentence types and we put them together in a single sentence. Essentially, we follow the same rules as compound sentences and complex sentences. We just do it all in a single sentence. So in the first example, we have the dependent clause beginning the sentence, while Arlo likes sherbet. So because it is flowing dependent into independent, we put a comma after the dependent clause before the independent clause begins. Next, we have another independent clause following the first. They both enjoy firecrackers. So here we would join the independent clauses together as a compound sentence. So as you see, if we were to end the sentence here at but, okay, we would be looking at a complex sentence. If we were to remove the sentence fragment, the dependent clause, we would be looking at a compound sentence. So again, to join them together in a single sentence, follow the rules of compound and complex sentences. This can be written multiple ways. The second example here has the compound sentence to begin, flowing into an independent clause, or flowing into a complex sentence. Okay, so again, follow the rules. Again, if the dependent clause begins the sentence, put a comma after the dependent clause ends before the independent clause begins, and then make sure that you join together the independent clauses with either a comma and coordinating conjunction, semicolon, conjunctive adverb, and comma, or a semicolon. If the compound sentence begins the sentence, as you see in the second example, again, bring together the independent clauses with either a comma and coordinating conjunction, semicolon and conjunctive adverb and comma, or a semicolon. No punctuation is needed going from independent to dependent clauses. Are you all still with me? I know it's a bit dry, but this is important stuff. If we get this right, it adds a level of ethos to our writing. It adds a level of credibility to our writing because we are following and we are understanding and displaying the rules of the English language. So we've talked a little bit about ethos in this essay unit because we're going to be examining it with these commercials that we're going to be analyzing and talking about. We've also been doing this with personality a little bit when it comes to our reflective essays. Okay, so this is a way of building that ethos, building that credibility for your reader, making yourself more likely to be heard. We'll skip the exercise, talk a little bit about run-on sentences for just a moment. I did see a few in our work. This didn't seem to be a huge problem, but it's something that some of us can definitely benefit from being refreshed upon. So the run-on sentence essentially contains too much. Okay, the sentence essentially is expressing more than one complete thought. So when we write a sentence in the English language, we want to sort of focus each sentence on a single idea or a single thought, a single complete thought. If we have too many of these in a sentence, it becomes a run-on sentence or a fuse sentence. Okay, so here are a couple of examples of fuse sentences. Arlo got a promotion at work. He celebrated by shooting firecrackers. We have two complete ideas here. Arlo got a promotion at work and he shot off firecrackers. Okay, so in the second example, Penny is so smart she received straight A's. Even whenever it seems very relative, these are two different ideas. Okay, being smart and getting a grade aren't necessarily the same thing because they're different types of smart, so we need more context here. We're shoving too much into the sentence. To correct the fused sentence, one of the easiest ways of doing this, again, because we are to focus each sentence on a single idea, create two sentences, right? Put a period where the first idea ends, where we have a subject, verb, and complete idea, put a period there, and then we start a new sentence with the next. Another way of doing this is to create a compound sentence, okay? Because essentially in an independent clause, in a simple sentence, we are expressing a complete idea about a subject that contains a verb. So that makes it an independent clause. We can bring them together in the same sentence if we follow the compound sentence rules by bringing in a comma and a coordinating conjunction to join the independent clauses. We can do this all of the ways that we make independent clauses. So bringing in a semicolon or a semicolon, conjunctive adverb, and comma. Another thing that we can do here is to make one of these clauses dependent and then write a complex sentence. So we can bring in one of the dependent markers after here in this example would be the dependent marker, making Arlo got a promotion now a dependent clause. If we were to remove after, it's an independent clause, but by putting after before Arlo got a promotion, now we've made this clause dependent. So therefore, we can write a complex sentence. Simply put a comma after the dependent clause if it begins the sentence, or begin the sentence with the independent clause and continue to write, including the dependent clause until the sentence is over. Okay, the fragment, the incomplete sentence. The incomplete sentence is missing either subject, verb, or complete idea. Oftentimes, it's missing a complete idea. Okay, so walking to the store, here we have no subject, right? To the movies, again, no subject. Because Arlo ate too much ice cream, no complete thought. Okay, so essentially with the fragment sentence, we need to keep writing. We need to fill it out. So one way that this occurs is whenever we are constructing the complex sentence, and instead of putting a comma where it should be after the dependent clause, we put a period. So make sure that you're putting a comma there instead of a period. And again, oftentimes we just need to keep on writing. The sentence isn't complete yet. Make sure you have a subject, a verb, and a complete idea in every sentence. Okay, the comma splice. The comma splice is an error with compound sentences when we have two independent clauses in a single sentence. This occurs whenever we do not include a coordinating conjunction. So we've brought together the two independent clauses in a single sentence using only a comma. Make sure that you put a coordinating conjunction in between these clauses, or a semicolon, conjunctive adverb, and comma, or a semicolon to correctly connect these two independent clauses in a single sentence. You can also replace the, you can also include at the first independent clause, you can include a dependent marker, which would create a dependent clause out of that independent clause, and then you would have a complex sentence as well. So there's multiple ways of fixing this. The most direct and easy way of fixing it would be create either a compound sentence or replace the comma with a period and create two separate sentences. Now, if both are needed to express the thought, then I would suggest going with the compound or the complex sentence, adding to the sentence. If they can stand alone and express their own ideas independently, create two different sentences. Okay, very important that we understand how to identify the comma splice. This is probably the thing that I noticed the most in everybody's work in general. This was the error that never ended. And that's pretty typical, actually. It's not uncommon for the comma splice to appear in a lot of Comp 1 essays. So the important thing is that we recognize it, we know how to fix it, and we write correct sentences from here on out. Any questions on any of this? Nope. Do we feel refreshed? Okay, I don't want to share screen. I want to stop sharing screen. There we go. Okay. Moving along to our next portion of class, a little time to brainstorm for the comparative rhetorical analysis. So should we take a moment to relook at the assignment sheet for this assignment? Okay, let's do that. Oops. Allow me to share screen again real quick. I was getting a new background. Don't make fun of me. Or I don't care if you do, really. Okay, so we're going to the assignment section. And we are going to find comparative rhetorical analysis. Here are the instructions. They are attached as a PDF. Okay, so for this assignment, you will use techniques such as summary, description, and rhetorical analysis to explain how rhetoric is used in advertisements. You will begin by selecting two comparable television commercials that pique your interest, and then objectively summarize and describe their content. Then you will analyze and assess the argument presented in each ad, noting the rhetorical strategies used and the degree to which they are successful or unsuccessful. Thesis statement here. You're going to articulate which of these two commercials is more successful in displaying its message to its intended audience. Okay, so that's your thesis statement for this one. It's going to require you to think objectively and analytically and critically, thoroughly and objectively assess the rhetorical strengths of each advertisement, also their shortcomings as well. Recognize the prevalence of argument in rhetoric in society, as well as the impact on the individual. So bringing a little bit about our culture into play as well. Let's see, recognizing the difference between a sound argument and one that lacks evidence. So on Tuesday, we talked about logical fallacies. Logical fallacies, when we examine an argument that contains logical fallacies, we often see problems with the logic being used, which would make it less successful. If there is a lack of common sense or lack of logic, then likely we are less likely to be convinced of something. And obviously using sound logic. So in your own work, using sound logic, paying close attention to your own personal logos. Requirements: choose 2 television commercials to analyze. Super Bowl commercials are really good. There's websites dedicated to it. They're also found on YouTube. You do not have to use Super Bowl commercials. However, there are a lot of them. There's usually a big budget for them. So the range is plentiful there. Just a suggestion. When you choose your ads, be sure that they can be compared. So for instance, choose 2 food products or 2 car commercials. One thing you should avoid are commercials about 2 products that aren't really relative at all. So the example here, don't compare a Skittles commercial to a Chevy truck commercial. They're selling different products entirely. So they're going to have a different strategy, a different message. They're going to be going after a different audience. Make sure that the 2 commercials are of the same product. The purpose of this assignment is for you to look at the company, how the companies are using messaging to persuade you to purchase the product. And again, the thesis statement should state which one of the 2 commercials is more successful at doing that. This is a 2-page essay written in MLA format. 11 to 12 point font, Times New Roman, Calibri, or Helvetica. And again, the purpose is to compare these 2 ads. The techniques will help you through your analysis and picking apart the advertisements. So I will leave that for you to read on your own time. Do not neglect that. Now, I encourage you all to be referring to the assignment sheet before, during, and after the writing process of the comparative rhetorical analysis. This will help keep you on track and make sure that you are meeting all of the requirements and expectations. Next week, we're going to get really heavy into this assignment. We'll spend the next 2 weeks focused on it entirely. No more reflection essays for this unit. So, questions on the assignment? No? Okay, cool. So, brainstorming. There's a couple of things that we can do here. We've encountered a couple of brainstorming strategies: the loop, free writing, clustering. So with this one, I think it might be smart to start off with a list. All right, so we've all seen television commercials, and really, we can even add things like advertisements before YouTube videos on this. The shorter ones may not necessarily work so well. We might want to go for the longer ones, but those are technically advertisements as well, so we could throw those into play. Let's start off with a list. Let's list some of the commercials that we've seen recently that we think could be a topic for this essay if we found another one to compare it to. So yeah, some of the ones I've seen recently, I think I mentioned the one about I think it's like a insurance company where a guy's going around helping all these 30-something-year-olds who are turning into their parents. That one really got me. You might be able to take that one and compare it to, say, like a Progressive commercial. I remember there was a Progressive commercial where the Progressive spokesman, I don't know his name, is acting in a movie, and his co-actor starts out of nowhere talking about Progressive insurance, not a part of the plot or the script, anything like that. So I might choose those 2 because they're both insurance companies. They both have kind of a figurehead within it, someone who's walking around being the visual, physical representation of the company, the insurance company, and how the other characters are reacting to that, what their purpose is as well in creating that. So Any questions on this brainstorm? We're going to make a list. We're going to try to put down on paper some of the commercials that stick out in memory. And then after that, we might take a few moments to pull up some videos and watch them on our own. Sound good? Okay, get after it, people. We'll take about, well, we'll say 5 to 10 minutes here. Okay, create that list. When one commercial comes to mind, try to match it up with another one that you've seen, similar to what I just did in my little example there. Tommy, if you would please turn on your video. Thank you. Another strategy that can be taken here is to go by category, right? So maybe we put food, right? And then list all the commercials that you can think of that are related to a restaurant, okay? Or maybe we put insurance and then we do the same thing, the progressive commercials, the so on and so forth, the other ones, State Farm, whatever, right? You can go that method as well. So either way is fine, free listing or going by category. Okay, has that given us enough time to get some ideas on the page? Yeah? Okay, we're gonna try something a little different today, see if it works out. I'm gonna put you all into individual breakout rooms. So you're gonna be joined together with 2 other classmates. We're gonna share some ideas and kind of discuss them a little bit. The intention here is to kind of share ideas, right? Maybe you've thought of a commercial that works really great, but you can't think of something to compare it to, right? This is an opportunity to discuss those ideas and share a little bit, and maybe we'll come out of it with even more ideas. Cool? So give me just a moment. I'm going to separate everybody. So you're going to see an alert come in for a breakout room. When you see that, accept it.
Hello.
Okay. Hey, y'all. You can go ahead and take your mics off mute and start sharing ideas. So one at a time, what's your list? And then whenever we've gotten through everybody, or actually do it one at a time. Go through your list and then discuss as a group. What are some other commercials that you all have seen, not the list maker, that could be compared to a couple of the commercials on the list? Be in and out of your room as you work. Okay, hey y'all. So we're already getting after it, huh? Hey, I just popped it back.
Yeah.
Hey, so touch base. Let's one at a time share our list, and then after a list has been shared as a group, discuss. What are some potential other commercials that could be compared to a few on the presenters list? Make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I'll be jumping in and out of your room, between your room and the other room. Just continue to work. Okay.
Who wants to go first? I mean, I can go first. Doesn't matter.
There you go. That's a good idea.
Let's go for it.
I mean, I only have. My first one is the General Insurance Company, the ones with Snoop Dogg in it, and he's driving the car that like lifts up and down. I always think those ones are pretty funny. And then like the Progressive commercials with like Flo, and they're all like in the Zoom meetings and stuff. It's always something stupid. But like those two, I thought I could compare those pretty well. And then the Doritos commercial with Sam Elliott, he's like doing the dance to.
I got like Wendy's and Arby's.
Yeah, I couldn't think of anything else. I got
Yeah, like different food chains would be really good.
yeah.
I don't know. I really like the insurance commercials. I think that's something I'm probably going to go with because they're just so funny. Like the one, like the one he was talking about with the, it was actually Allstate. And it's like the Allstate guy, and he's, you know, he's like in a movie or whatever, and he's playing with this other guy, and this other guy just keeps forgetting his lines, and he's like, "Well, Allstate will forgive you, you know, accident forgiveness."
Yeah.
Like, that's not the line. And even the Allstate guy's like, "Oh my gosh, not again." I like that. That one's probably one of my favorite commercials. And I don't know, I put that one with the Progressive one because I love Flo. She's just awesome. And then they added that new guy. And so it's like, I don't know, I think that can be comparable with both of them. Like, you know, it used to be the Allstate guy, and now they're adding more people into it, and he's doing different things. And then it used to be just Flo, and now they're adding the new guy, which I don't know his name, but like in one of the commercials I saw, like.
That's pretty good because a lot of like. Yeah.
Verizon versus T-Mobile.
Yeah. I was gonna compare like maybe some Liberty Mutual to like Progressive, or like the Bud Light to Corona commercials, like the one that has Snoop Dogg in it, because that's the only Corona commercial I've seen.
This group seems to really like Snoop Dogg advertisements.
It's the only one I remembered.
Tommy, of those, you said Budweiser and Corona. Any one in particular? I mean, you said the Snoop Dogg one, but any more details there?
Not really. I was just thinking of commercials that I've seen, and like I was thinking the Super Bowl commercials. Like just find one and compare it. I don't have any particular commercial in mind. I'm just thinking of like companies that I've seen commercials for.
Okay. Continue your discussion.
Okay.
I didn't really.
Yeah, I probably should, because like now that I think about it, I can't really compare one of mine, but I'm glad
What's that, Tyson?
I noticed that. Do it.
Why is that?
Well, it's one of them's a chip. It's like just a bag of chips, and then the other one's actually a pizza place. So I don't think I can compare those very well, anyways.
Yeah, that's probably smart. Chips to another snack, right? That could work. But chips to a restaurant, not quite the same.
You could do like Doritos and Tostitos, because like the Tostitos commercials always have like the football games in it, and like they have that idea of family.
Is the reflection paper. But yeah. All right, what else y'all got? Come on, I know y'all are younger than me. Y'all I watch TV more.
I'm trying to think. Oreo is a very popular brand that I have written down. You know, the Milk's Best cookie or whatever. It's like the slogan that they use. And then also like another cookie brand like Chips Ahoy, you could argue would be up there.
Okay, I can't either.
I only know like the Oreos commercials though.
I was going to suggest Chips Ahoy. They have very entertaining commercials.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever seen any of those commercials before.
Me neither. I'm about to look them up.
Yeah, I can't remember them.
Was a thing. They were all like claymation stuff. It was pretty cool.
And Oreos. I'm looking at it.
So how's this group doing? Are we kind of coming to an end of our discussion?
I think so, yeah.
I mean, I think we've pretty much laid out everything that we have.
Okay, cool. So give me just a second to touch base with the other group, and then we will go back to our normal setting.
Affleck. Because like Carfax has the fox, and then Affleck has the duck.
Or what's the other one? It's got the ostrich and the other guy. I can't remember now.
Liberty
Remember what
Mutual.
that one? Yeah, Liberty. Those ones are good ones.
Yeah.
They're stupid, but they're good.
They have a bunch of stupid commercials, but I also thought of a weird one, kind of like Mathis Brothers. You know how they have all these commercials for their furniture and whatever, versus that one guy that sells the sucky pillows called My Pillow.
Well, not quite the
What?
same, is it? I mean, pillow and furniture.
Well, he sells mattresses, so I was thinking.
Okay. Let's find one of the mattress commercials then.
Okay.
A pillow and Mathis Brothers Lazy Boy, kind of two different things. It's sort of like chips in a restaurant. We can rest on both of those things, but they are pretty much different entirely.
All right.
How's this group doing? Are we nearing the end of our discussion?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and close the breakout rooms now and get everybody back to our normal setting. One sec. Okay, welcome back, everyone. How was that? Did we like the little breakout session? Okay, we'll try to do more of those in the future, okay? So hopefully we have a couple of new ideas, and we've kind of refined our ideas a little bit more as far as where we could take a topic for this comparative rhetorical analysis essay. So again, we're going to get heavy into that next week. Next 2 weeks, we're going to be focused on it quite a bit. So between now and next Tuesday, all right, in conjunction with working on the reflection essay 3, start watching these commercials again and taking note. One of the very first things that you can do instantly is create kind of a reporter's question, who, what, when, why, where list based on what you're seeing in the commercial. So what's going on in the commercial, a brief description of it, right? Who all is in it? What are the characters? What are they doing, right? What's the purpose of the commercial? What's the product that's being sold? And then it started examining how it's being sold, right? We've talked ethos, pathos, and logos, the rhetorical triangle. Start trying to identify ethos, pathos, and logos examples in each of the commercials that you watch. Try to find as many of them as possible. Again, logos, the logic, the common sense in it, okay? Now, with commercials, one of the ways that commercials are entertaining is that they kind of take logic and throw it out the window and make it a bit absurd, right? Most commercials are over-exaggerated or under-exaggerated to whatever the problem is, right? So take note of that. How are they manipulating that logic, right? This is where our discussion of logical fallacies comes into play. Additionally, how is pathos being displayed? Again, that's emotion, right? So how is it? How is the content of the commercial attempting to make you feel something, whatever that emotion is? Then finally, ethos, right? For instance, with the Budweiser commercial that we watched the analysis of, notice that Budweiser was not featured at all in it. It was about a runaway dog, right? It was only subtly done on the man's hat. And then at the very, very end, we get to see it's a Budweiser commercial. So ethos, again, is credibility and authority. How is it displaying that? Typically with recognizable features like the name of the company or their logo, right? McDonald's doesn't need to write McDonald's. They can just put the M and we get it, right? So those types of examples as well. How is it displaying ethos? Right, so that's what we should be working on, again, in conjunction with Reflection Essay 3 between now and next Tuesday. Try to come to class next Tuesday with a couple of comparable advertisements, commercials, and again, a description of it, who the characters in it are, who the people in it are, what are they doing, what's being sold, what's the product, and then how is it being sold. Examine the ethos, pathos, and logos, paying close attention to logical fallacies, how your emotions are being stimulated, and how the advertisement displays credibility and authority. Are we all clear on that? Excellent. Okay, so that just leaves us with about 20 minutes to continue work on Reflection Essay 3. Reflection Essay 3, let me get it pulled up real quick so everything I say is accurate. Asked for you to describe a time when you realized you needed to change a behavior that you displayed on a regular basis. What was the behavior? Why did that behavior need to change? Let's see, what were some of the steps you took to change that behavior in some way? So it's actually really funny because I ran into an old friend last night and somebody that we went to high school with that I haven't seen since high school. And he said, Shafer, man, last time I saw you, you were like screaming or crying or something. And he was referring to when we played football, and I used to get super hyped up before games where I would like just start screaming and all that kind of stuff, right? So I laughed and I said, yeah, that sounds about right, man. I used to be a very emotional kid. So that was a behavior that throughout my life I've worked to change. Having a better command of my emotions, having better control over how I feel and how I display those emotions, right? So that's what I would probably write this essay about, how I was able to overcome that. So same thing to you. What's that behavior? Now we've brainstormed this, we've talked a lot about it. Hopefully you're to the writing process. So we're gonna spend the last 20 minutes of class writing the essay. Okay, now you're not going to be done, obviously. In 20 minutes, you're going to need to continue working on this assignment between now and the deadline, which is Sunday, the 27th. Do we have any questions here about the assignment or what we're doing? Okay, let's start writing, people. Again, keep your writing resources handy. Make sure that you thoroughly understand the reflection essay 3 expectations and requirements. You can find that in the assignment section. And then in the PowerPoint section, you have some writing resources. Let me share screen with you for just a quick moment. We have the paragraph structure stuff here. We have our MLA essay format right here as well. Make sure that you are definitely using these two. The right stuff may be useful as well. And obviously, the elements of style are course textbook. Have that handy as well as you write. If anybody has any questions, feel free to react or drop something in the chat.